Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today we're going to talk about knowing your numbers. What marketing metrics you should know in your practice so that you're tracking your results and knowing what is working. So, this is something that I see a lot of practices don't really have a good grasp on. And one of the key things here is that you probably have a lot of data that you can extract already, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that here today. But in the clinic, what we typically focus on as practice owners is we look at our metrics we know within the clinic, right? We know our cancellation rate, we know how many patient visits that we're having that week. We have a general concept of the number of new patients that we get in the clinic, and we're looking at other metrics, in terms of, billing and units measure, all these kind of things that are in the clinic. But what I see time and time again is there's really not much in place for tracking some of the deeper marketing metrics that can make a big difference in your decision making of what things that you want to do to grow your practice. So let's talk about this here today. There's 5 key ones that I do want you to focus on moving forward here. And so the first one that we want to talk about is your website conversion rate. So what does this mean? Well, ideally, you should be getting quite a lot of patients contacting you through your website, whether that's a form, whether that's a phone call, but you need to know, of all the people that are coming to your website, how many of those people are actually requesting some sort of appointment or information from you. So this is your website conversion rate. And so this is something where you can easily get information from Google Analytics, which should be in your website or connected to your website. So at least you know how many people came to my website that month. So how many unique visitors came to my website that month? And then simply divide that by the number of leads that you get from your website. So again, you should know how many people filled out a form and that came into your clinic, and you should know how many people called from your website. You're going to need some sort of call tracking software in order to do that. But what this helps you do is really see the value and the importance and the performance of your website, how good it is at getting people to make appointments. So one of the things that we see all the time here at Practice Promotions is that people love their website that they come in with, right? So if they already have, sorry. So they love their website, they love their brand, they might have a good feel to it, but they're like, you know what, I need more new patients. I just don't feel like I'm getting enough new patients. And they usually don't have any tracking or information on their current website. And so just because a website's pretty and you're happy about the way it makes your brand look, doesn't mean it's very good at getting people to make appointments. And that's your website's number one job, is to get people to make appointments with you and come in for care. So that's where you need that metric, that data. And so one of the things that we do, we put an awful lot of tracking into the website. And actually we use like heat maps, which is how monitors how people actually click and scroll and all those kind of things. So there's a lot of information that we can get about how people behave on the website and take action so that we can make changes, right? That's marketing. It's tweaking and testing. And so when it comes to your website, you need those conversion rates to know, hey, is my website getting a good conversion rate? So what is a good conversion rate? What we see on average is that most practice websites are converting at less than 2%. So that means that if 1,000 people come to your website that month, you might get 20, right? Which doesn't seem like a bad number, but small percentage changes make a big difference. So if you can double that 2% to 4%, now you can get 40 new patients, leads from that website. So that's a significant jump. That could be double the revenue generated from the leads from your website just by a 2% change in conversion rate. So it's something you definitely want to monitor. What I'm proud to say is that our team does a fantastic job, and our average is over 7% for clinics. So that's almost triple the number of conversions from a standard website. So conversion rates are very important to track on your website. The next thing you want to pay attention to is what is your leads to evaluations conversion rate. So what does this mean? It means any lead that you're getting into the clinic. Maybe it's from an event, maybe it's from even a physician referral, definitely what's a form that was filled out on your website. So anywhere that someone has said that they want to talk to you, right, about an appointment or something like that, but they haven't actually come in the door, right? They haven't actually, shown up yet. So we're counting those evaluations in the clinic, those assessments, as that first interaction. And obviously, it's a paid visit, right, that they're coming in for you. Prior to that, they're just a lead. So what you want to see is for all the people that contact us from forms, from events, from whatever it may be, how many of those people actually become a paid evaluation in the clinic? And so what that tells us is the performance ideally of your marketing, but especially of your front desk, which is actually the sales component of your business. Most people don't realize that, but your front desk is actually the sales component of your practice. And so, how good is your front desk at getting people to show up from an inquiry? So, that's one thing you definitely want to measure, being a way to collect all that information about how many leads did we get in, and then what percentage of those people will actually show up in the clinic as a new patient starting. So, that's your leads to evaluations conversion rate. And so if that's not where it needs to be, then you probably want to look at some help in the terms of the process there. Like, what are we doing in terms of a marketing process before they actually come in the clinic? And definitely, how is our front desk doing at talking to people and selling them on actually showing up in the clinic? So that could be an area of improvement too.
Do you want more freedom in your clinic? Then you need to work on your business, not just in it. The top practice owners know that they need a marketing system that consistently attracts patients from the internet. And at Practice Promotions, we've helped hundreds of practice owners skyrocket to the top of Google and get more new patients from online. Go to practicepromotions.net/kit to get our free practice marketing sample kit. It includes all our digital marketing tips and tricks that will get you new patients from Google. That's practicepromotions.net/kit, KIT, for a free marketing kit. And now back to the show.
Now, the third metric that you want to tackle here in the clinic from a marketing perspective, which is really important, and I don't see many practices actually doing this one, but it really is one of the keys to your success as a small business, and that is the number of reactivated patients each month. So what we tend to do is we get people come back for care. We love having them back. It's one of the best ways to grow your practice is to have a high percentage of past patients coming back for care and referring friends and family. But we tend not to bucket them into their own metric. What we tend to do is just lump them in with all the new patients. So we say, hey, this is all of our new patients for the month. And we lump our past patients in with that number. Now, that's okay. It's good to track that as a whole, like how many new evaluations, new assessments have we done, this week, this month. And you can include your past patients in that. But ideally, what you want to do is have a separate metric for how many of those new patients that came in are past patients, right? Patients that have been to us before and been come back in. We call that a reactivation, right? Because they're part of your customer list. So it's an extremely valuable metric for you in your clinic because we find that many clinicians, many practice owners are not tracking this at all. And they say, hey, yeah, we get people back in, they love us, right? But you don't really know the numbers. You don't really know if 20% of your caseload comes from past patients, 40%, 50%. Where we see clinics really do fantastic is when they get into a position where about 50% or even more of their caseload is past patients coming back in, or a friend that was referred from a patient. What that does is it puts you in a position of power growth, and you're not as dependent on outside sources of new patients like referrals from doctors. That's a great thing to have. But let's say if you're 80% of the patients that are coming in are referrals from, physicians, what if a hospital buys out the physicians group, right? You can lose a lot of business overnight. So you want to put yourself in a position where you can have a substantial part of your business as repeat business, right? As past patients coming back for more care, sending a friend and family. But you have to be able to track that And that's why I highly encourage you to look at, of all the new patients that come in, let's make sure we're tracking how many past patients are reactivated this month. So the fourth metric here that you want to focus on is what we call customer acquisition cost. So what does it actually cost you to get a new patient in the door, right, and started? And so that's your customer acquisition cost. So often what we see in practice owners is they focus, hey, I'm gonna just have a budget, right? I'm just going to have a marketing budget. They don't look necessarily at what the acquisition cost is for a new patient. So you want to be shooting ideally for somewhere around $50 an acquisition cost. That's really good, right? And you can get lower than that, but if you're anywhere from $50 to $100 to get a new patient in the door that's worth $800, $1,000, $1,200, whatever it may be, that's a good return on your investment, right? And it means that your marketing is working pretty well. So you don't know that unless you're tracking that. And that's a fairly simple metric to cover. Basically, all you're going to do is take your marketing budget and divide your number of new patients into it, right? So whatever you spent on marketing, advertising, events, salaries of a marketing person, director in the clinic, that all goes into your total marketing budget. And then just divide that by the number of new patients you got that week or that month, probably on a monthly basis. And that'll give you your customer acquisition cost. And so if you're starting to run like 100, more than 100, then your marketing is not very effective, right? And your customer acquisition cost is high. So again, look at where can you dial that down. Now, the nice thing with customer acquisition cost, and when you focus on that, it's tied to your budget, but it doesn't mean that you spend less money on your marketing. And in fact, you can be paying actually more in your marketing, but because you pay more, you actually get a substantial increase in the amount of new patients that are coming into your practice. And then that significantly lowers your customer acquisition cost. So that's a really interesting thing to see. So you do want to make sure that you're really focusing on that customer acquisition cost. And so our fifth and final marketing metric here that we want to focus on, again, there's a million marketing metrics that you can be looking at, but we're focusing on 5 key ones that are going to make the most difference in your practice. This one is a percent completed plan of care. So this is a bit more of an internal metric, but it does tie into marketing, right? Because it's how people are seeing the value of your services in the clinic and their belief from a marketing perspective and what you're offering has a high value. All right, so when we're talking here about percent completed plan of care, what we're looking at here is a little bit more of a manual kind of process in the clinic. But what we want to do is for every patient that comes in, we want to list out in a spreadsheet, for example, what the recommended number of visits is. So for example, if it's a physical therapy, for example, let's just say that our therapist recommends 3 times a week for 4 weeks, right? So 12 visits. Well, that needs to be listed out in that spreadsheet. And then we count if that patient arrives for those amount. Now, if they drop off after 6, then our percent completed plan of care is only 50%, right? They were supposed to have 12. They dropped off after 6, 50% completed plan of care. So this allows you to look at where you're losing business and patients in their recommended treatment plan of care. So sometimes it can be a manual thing. It depends on the EMRs. There might be some solutions within the EMRs that can help you with some of these metrics here, but the tighter you can look at this, you will probably notice that people are dropping off sooner than you think. And so that's losing a lot of patient visits on the table. And ultimately, it's not helping the patient get fully better and being a great advocate for your practice and recommending your practice to others, because they might be like, hey, I did okay in therapy. I don't really need to go back, right? But are they a raving fan of your practice? And usually they need to have, greater strengthening, greater coordination, greater balance to be, 100% back to where they were. So that's more of an internal metric, but another key thing that you want to be looking for there in terms of knowing your metrics. So just to recap here in the 5 key marketing metrics I want you to start looking at in your practice. 1, your website conversion rate. 2, those leads to evaluations conversion rate. 3, the number of patients reactivated this month, those patient reactivations. 4, our customer acquisition cost, and 5, our percent completed plan of care. So get these metrics in place. It's going to give you wonderful insight into the health of your practice, and it's going to help you dial in your marketing a lot better. So this is Neil Trickett from Practice Promotions here and the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in tracking your new metrics.
Thank you for listening to the Practice Marketing Podcast. Don't forget to get your free practice marketing sample kit at practicepromotions.net/kit. Start 2024 off the right way by building marketing systems that automatically attract new patients from online. That's practicepromotions.net/kit.